the other Boleyn girl, but not Anne and not Mary. Today, we're talking about Jane, their sister-in-law, better known as Lady Rochford. She served 5 of Henry VIII's wives, and is often believed to have played a role in the deaths of 2 of them, including her own husband. But who was she really? The greatest intriguer of the Tudor court, or just another victim? And that's exactly what we're going to figure out today. Don't forget to like the video, and let's dive in. Jane Boleyn, born Jane Parker, came from an influential family. Her father, Henry Parker, the 10th Baron Morley, served at the court of Henry VIII, and her mother, Alice, held an equally high position within court circles. Jane's exact date of birth is unknown, but she appeared at court in 1522, likely around the age of 14 when she entered the household of Queen Catherine of Aragon. Unfortunately, we don't know what Jane actually looked like. We only have a presumed portrait. But from court records, we do know one thing for certain. Jane was a true fashion lover, as her wardrobe included white and gold hose for masking. That same year, Jane took part in a famous court pageant at Chateau Vert, held for the king, alongside her future sister-in-law, Anne Boleyn. Though, of course, no one knew that at the time. As you may remember, Anne played the role of Perseverance, while Jane portrayed Constancy, which, in a way, turned out to be almost prophetic, as she would outlive most of her future Boleyn relatives at court, and witness the rise and fall of 5 of the king's wives. In 1526, Jane made a very advantageous match, marrying George Boleyn, a man whose position at court was already promising, and rapidly improving, thanks to the growing influence of his sister Anne over the king. In the Tudors, she is shown as resisting the marriage and not wanting to marry George at all. But in reality, they had most likely known each other long before the wedding, moving in the same circles, and their union was a typical arranged marriage of the time. So it's unlikely that Jane was some kind of unwilling bride. The series also gets the timing of their marriage wrong. In the show, Jane marries George, almost at the moment when Anne is already nearing her downfall. But in reality, their marriage lasted nearly 12 years from the wedding until the fall of the Boleyn family. As Henry's relationship with Anne developed, so did the status of the Boleyn family. Soon, Jane's husband became Viscount Rochford, and she became Lady Rochford, the title by which she's most commonly known. Both the Tudors and the other Boleyn girl portray their marriage as deeply unhappy, with the 2 of them practically hating each other. George is even depicted as being involved with men and unfaithful to Jane. But in truth, their marriage remains a mystery. To understand the nature of their marriage, we have no surviving letters or reliable accounts. Only one certain fact, that after all those years together, the couple never had any children. The absence of children led some to assume the marriage was unhappy, or that George was not interested in women. However, contemporary accounts suggest otherwise. George was known for his vanity and his interest in women, and one observer noted that his appetite was only for the women he wished to consume. Whether Jane tolerated this, resented it, or simply chose to ignore it, history does not tell us. In short, modern series portray George as both gay and willing to engage in a relationship with his own sister, presenting him as a deeply unpleasant man. But in reality, he was known as a highly educated and active figure, with a strong interest in religion, politics, and the arts. Another subject of endless speculation is Jane's relationship with Anne. It is often suggested, especially in popular culture, that Jane hated Anne and was jealous of her. But in reality, the only thing we know for certain about their relationship is that Anne once confided in Jane about the king's weakness in bed, something that would later be brought up during Anne's trial. From this, can we assume they were close and shared intimate secrets, or on the contrary, that Jane later used this against her? It all depends on how you choose to see it. For a long time, Jane Boleyn was accused of passing information about an alleged incestuous relationship between brother and sister to Thomas Cromwell, supposedly out of jealousy or resentment. However, if we set aside rumours, there is no solid evidence linking her to their downfall. We could only speak about this with certainty if we had access to the interrogation records. But unfortunately, whatever Jane said behind closed doors has remained a mystery. So in the end, everyone has to decide for themselves whether she accused them of incest or not. What we do know for certain is that there was a woman who testified, and George himself said during the trial that it was unfair to pass a verdict based on the accusations of just one woman. But most likely, that woman was not Jane, but the Countess of Worcester, who had told her brother during an argument that she believed the Boleyns' behaviour was inappropriate. And another argument against the idea that Jane betrayed her husband is the fact that she sent him a letter just a few days before his execution, asking how he was, and he replied with gratitude. Because honestly, if she had truly accused him and helped send him to the scaffold, it's hard to imagine her writing to him like that. But to me, it almost doesn't matter whether it was Jane or someone else who spoke against them, because Henry and Cromwell already had a plan. Henry would have found a way to get rid of his second wife no matter what. We should never forget who the real villain of this story was and who ultimately signed the Boleyns' death sentence. By the way, I came across an interesting theory that Jane's negative image may have been part of Elizabethan propaganda, that Elizabeth wanted to restore her mother's reputation, but couldn't present her father in a bad light. So Jane was chosen as a convenient figure to blame, as if she had deliberately misled everyone. Perhaps Jane's bad reputation can also be explained by the fact that she did something very few people around the Boleyns managed to do. She survived. While Anne and George were executed and their father Thomas withdrew from court, Jane somehow managed to regain royal favour. Just a few months later, having recovered and even having disputes with her father-in-law over inheritance, she returned to court, serving in the household of Henry VIII's next queen, Jane Seymour. She was present at Hampton Court when Jane Seymour gave birth to Prince Edward in 1537, and she later played an important role in the Queen's funeral. Later still, she gave key testimony during Henry's attempt to annul his short and awkward marriage to Anne of Cleves, confirming that the union had never been consummated. Throughout all of this, Jane remained standing where others fell, surviving in a world where very few women managed to do so. But at some point, her luck turned, and the instinct that had kept her alive no longer saved her. When Henry married his fifth wife, Catherine Howard, Jane once again found herself in the Queen's inner circle. Catherine, a cousin of Anne Boleyn, was young, lively, and barely out of her teens when she caught the attention of the aging king. Soon after the marriage, the young queen began a secret affair with one of the king's trusted courtiers, Thomas Culpeper, and Jane became involved as well, helping to arrange their meetings. What's striking is that a woman as experienced as Jane did not seem to fully grasp just how dangerous this was. She had seen with her own eyes how quickly people lost their heads at Henry's court, how fast the king's favour could turn into anger. Perhaps she believed that Henry's declining health meant the danger had passed, or maybe she thought the affair would never come to light. Whatever her reasons, her decision to get involved cost her everything. When Catherine Howard's affair was discovered in November 1541, Jane at first tried to deny any involvement. But during interrogation, Culpeper claimed that Jane had provoked him much to love the Queen, a statement that sealed her fate just as much as his own. Under pressure, she eventually confessed to helping arrange their meetings, and stated that she believed that Culpeper had known the Queen carnally, and that confession determined everything that followed. She was arrested, taken to the Tower, and sentenced to death. In the Tower, it seems that Jane began to lose her mind as she faced her fate. The strength that had carried her through so many years at court finally gave way. By early 1542, she was declared insane. Her fits of madness meant that, by law, she could neither stand trial nor be executed. But Henry VIII, who had already lost patience, was determined to punish her, and so he introduced a law that allowed the execution of those deemed insane for treason. On February 13, 1542, Jane Boleyn was executed on Tower Green, just moments after Queen Catherine. And by the way, there's a small historical inaccuracy again shown in the Tudors, where Catherine watches Jane's execution in fear. In reality, executions usually followed rank, so the person of higher status would be executed first. Before her death, Jane delivered the customary speech of repentance and prayed for the king's health. Just like Catherine, who never openly spoke of her love for Thomas Culpeper or claimed she would have preferred to be his wife. And honestly, it really annoyed me how they showed Catherine losing control on the scaffold and Jane behaving as if she had completely lost her mind. Because in reality, both women faced their deaths with dignity and courage. An eyewitness to the execution, Otwell Johnson, wrote about their bravery, describing their steadfast countenance and their constancy. And now think back to the role Jane played when she first appeared at court. Constancy. I'll repeat it again, because it seems that word may have defined her entire fate. Her body was buried in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, beside Catherine Howard and Anne Boleyn, two women whose fates were deeply intertwined with her own. It was also the same place where her husband was laid to rest. In the end, this place became a kind of final refuge for them all, and for many others, whether victims of the Tudors, or perhaps of ambition and intrigue themselves. Jane Boleyn, a woman who carried such a famous name, remains a mystery to us even centuries later. She left behind almost nothing, no known portrait, very few letters, and hardly any written records. What survived is only the reputation created after her death, that of a cunning and heartless woman. But for some reason, it feels to me that she wasn't like that at all. She was simply another woman of her time who wanted to survive, but was ultimately crushed by the machinery of Henry VIII's court. And what do you think about Jane? And what role do you believe she played in the fall of the Boleyn family? Share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.